Okay, question for you.
Question,
as Javi would say, or Javi. Is it Javi or Javi?
Javi.
Okay, Javi. Question first. Who finished third in Abu Dhabi 2021? It took me a while as well. Who got the final podium place?
Oh, God. Because I know Daniel was technically behind the two, like, as they came in. I'm not Googling that. I have the race results from Mexico up next to me. That's why I'm glancing, because obviously it has the names. Was it Charles?
Nope.
Who?
Carlos.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
it took
okay.
me ages. I was like, who actually got third in that race? So, yeah, interesting. There was a Ferrari driver who got third in the Mexican Grand Prix.
There was. Actually, do you know what? We're going to start off. I'm going to do lottery numbers this week.
Are you going to do lottery numbers?
I'm going to do lottery numbers this week.
Someone's just rubbing it in everyone's faces.
So
you got a prediction, right?
I got my predictions bang on. I got 4 out of 4 for my predictions. I predicted 4 things, and I got every single one of them right. Bang on.
I got 1.
Which was Max.
Which was
So for anyone who didn't listen, last week, but last time round, my podium prediction was exactly how it ended up. I said Max, Lewis, Charles, and that's exactly how he ended up on the podium. And also noted that Checo would fumble the bag, and boy did he fumble the bag. I loved the fact that during the introduction of the Grand Prix and stuff like that, I don't know if it was the same on Sky or whatever broadcast you were watching, but I didn't know, very interesting fact, that Mexico City was built on an old lake. So Mexico City sinks 12 centimeters every year. I didn't know that. That's very, very cool. Did you miss that during the thing, or was that only me that saw that? It was on the F1 TV broadcast. But I'd imagine that somebody's confidence is probably a bit more than 12% lower after this weekend. Looking at you,
and welcome
Sergio.
to the 107 podcast, full of fun facts.
Always fun facts. Always.
I guess that's where we'll start.
That's the elephant in the room. Let's get it out of the way. Just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. It is. Sergio Perez had the opportunity to do the funniest thing in the world, and he did it. It was absolutely hilarious. If you're a Sergio Perez fan, it's not funny. I understand. But to me, so funny. It's so funny. He couldn't have messed up in any worse of a way other than taking out Max. That is the only way he could have made it worse. He did everything. It was amazing.
Well, even before that, he was out-qualified by Ricciardo.
I know.
He was out-qualified by Ricciardo. And then, despite the booing, and it was a racing incident, he got...
It was 100% a racing incident.
Almost a triple slipstream.
Yeah.
Had a double slipstream. There was a gap on the outside. He went for it. And then, as Martin Brundle says, 3 into 1 doesn't go. And he came off worse. And I'm guessing the way he was talking was that his headspace was like, I just want to win this race. I want to win this race.
Yeah. And
perhaps he should have played the long game. And it's better to be finishing the race. And most likely you probably would have got a podium. And I understand that it's his home race. Everyone's there to support him. He wants to put on a show. And he wants to, even if he didn't get the win, he just wants to fight. But it didn't work out for him, and he should have just played the long game.
Yeah, I think he expected Charles to break earlier, but I think Damon Hill put it the best way on X. He said that he's been guilty of this as well. He had it so built up into his head that he wanted to win that race, but it was almost too much, and it just consumed him. And I think that's probably the best way to put it. It consumed him, and that's all he wanted to do. He as soon as he saw the chance, he was like a moth to a flame. Just went for it. Just could not be distracted by anything else.
That's the thing. He saw the chance. If he didn't see the chance, it would have been a different outcome. But he's like, okay, I have a chance to get into the lead here. And that's just that temptation. Just,
but it was,
gonna have it.
It was, yeah, it's that temptation. It's that I've got to have it. But like, I think if you pull that move 100 times, I reckon you only pull it off 2 or 3. It's such an outrageous move that it just wouldn't have gone well.
Someone on the inside.
Yeah. Too wide. Sure. If it was just Charles there or just Max, you probably would have gotten away with it. Maybe not just Max. He's a bit more aggressive. But if it was just one of the car, he probably would have gotten away with it. But 2? No. Sorry. But no. Charles did brake a little bit late. I will admit that. He did brake a little bit later than Sergio was expecting. But come on. But this is a driver who has hundreds of Grand Prix to his name. You can't make mistakes like that at the front end of the grid.
But that's also the first lap. People will brake earlier, they'll brake later to avoid crashes, to gain positions. And yeah, I really did feel for him. He looked so disappointed in the garage and heartbroken. I spoke to
Kevin a little bit about racecraft when I met him, and essentially we were chatting about when to give it a rest.
I spoke to Kevin, we're on first name basis.
Jealousy is a cruel mistress. But no, when I was speaking to him,
the way you said it, stop. The way you said, I spoke to Kevin, just
like we're busy mates,
call each other all the time.
Maybe we do, who knows.
No, because I'd never heard the end of it. Oh, look what Kevin told me today.
Me and my busy mate Kevin.
Look at the reels that Kevin has sent me on Instagram.
We went sailing together. But we'll talk about his crash as well later on. But he was saying how lap 1 is mostly just opportunistic and try to stay out of trouble. That's what lap 1 should be. And Sergio went for one of those, not the other.
Yeah.
Although I would argue Sergio's a bit more of a successful driver, so maybe I shouldn't listen to Kevin. There is also that argument. But still, Sergio Perez absolutely binned it. Absolutely hilarious. Couldn't ask for a better opening like turn 1. Absolutely hilarious.
Someone who didn't bin it and is showing the improvement of the car is Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Yes.
He's really... There is something. There is a post-summer break Lewis Hamilton. When he has a break and he comes back, he just turns it on.
It's all that Almave pumping through his veins. The FIA need to investigate it.
On.
I think that last year George beating Lewis in the same car was arguably one of the worst things that could have happened to George, because now you can see the clear difference between George and Lewis.
Yes.
Why one of them is a 7-time world champion and one of them has only won one race.
Yeah. He just turned it on and he got the fastest lap at the end as well. He was on medium tyres, which he made last and built a gap to the Ferraris. It's like this guy, and you could tell by his team radio at the end, he was so happy as well. He's like, things are going in a positive direction.
You could tell that to him, that felt like a win.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And obviously, I think it's very important to remember that those upgrades to the floor that were made to the Mercedes, those are a transitional upgrade towards next year's car, which is probably why he's quite excited and quite confident, because that just means that next year's car is going to be a lot more competitive. So he will have a whole season to fight at the front with. Hopefully, for him anyway, that will be the case. So I'd imagine he's pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, if it's similar to 2021 where the Red Bull and the Mercedes are on a level platform, it bodes well for him because Mercedes upgrade the car well throughout the season. And it looks like they're understanding the car as well, which is one of the problems they had last season. They're like, we don't know why it works and why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And they had that a little bit at the start of this season as well. But it seems that they've, what do they like to say, unlocked the potential of the car.
Yeah.
And basically, if there was like 100% here and 1% here, you've got Mercedes, you've got Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Everything that Aston Martin are doing wrong is what Mercedes are doing right. But good on him. The Ferraris in third and fourth. I think that's the best they could have done considering they're on the front row. But let's talk about Lando.
How much time do you have?
Okay, we can't spend that much time. Okay, me too. There's few other drivers we need to talk about. But what a race from Lando, right? What a race from Lando. Even he said, like, he was still disappointed in himself for, like, being at the back of the grid and having to have a race where he's basically working his way through the field. But to get up to fifth, wow. And a few more laps, he could have had Carlos.
Yeah, so he was about 5 seconds behind Carlos.
Yeah, so it would have been actually quite a fair amount of laps. But
he was gaining. He was gaining on the car ahead of him every single lap, half a second.
Absolutely mental.
Every single lap, he was gaining half a second. No matter who was ahead of him, he was gaining half a second.
Can you imagine if he qualified a lot better?
This is the thing. If he'd have qualified a lot better, he probably could have been pushing, at the very least, Lewis for P2, potentially even Max for P1. Especially if he'd have started ahead of Max.
Nah, I don't think he'd have been pushing Max.
No. I don't mean he would have won. I just think he would have pushed him. I don't think he would have won, personally, because...
I don't think he would have pushed him either.
I think he would have pushed him for almost like in Britain, where he pushed him for like 5 laps at Britain. I think it would have been a little bit longer.
Maybe something like that. But yeah, Max just had it in control the entire time.
Yeah, Max's domination isn't actually talked about that much at Mexico, but he loves that track. It seems to suit him really well. Him and the car very, very well. Every single time that he's won by, I think, on average of like 15 seconds. Like, ridiculous. Every single time that he's won, it's 15-second like margin, and that was with obviously a red flag and a safety car, which happened halfway through the race as well. Today, this weekend. So it just goes to show like how dominant he actually is at that track, which is
If
impressive.
I was Matt, I'd try and go for a hat trick every single race now.
That's literally what he's doing anyway.
Well, no, I mean, like, is he though? Because I'm pretty sure they tell him not to do the fastest laps. Because I bet you he'd be like, "Oh, last lap, you've got a pit stop gap. Go on, bring me in."
I think he knew that he couldn't get away with fastest lap towards the end of this race. Not only because he was on the hards and Lewis was on the mediums, but also he was less than a pit stop ahead of Hamilton. So
no, but that's the thing. That he should just go for it. Like, he should, like, at the start. Let's just take Brazil, build a massive gap so he leads every lap, and then just races until 1 or 2 laps to the end. Puts on the fastest tires, does his fastest lap of the race.
He pulls an Austria.
Yeah, it just does it, and let's do it for all the races remaining.
I think it's a little bit more difficult for him now that Red Bull have essentially come back from the summer break and they've not bothered really to apply upgrades, only track-specific changes to the car.
I still don't think he's pushing 100%.
I think he probably is, because he will always want to do his absolute best, and that's probably also why he was stressing out in Austin last week when there was a brake issue. But I think that he could probably push harder. He just knows that he doesn't have to be at that absolute limit every single race weekend. He will push himself pretty close to that, more than likely, but he just doesn't have to be at that limit, if you know what I mean.
I think there's always pace in the car, but he just manages it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no point. And I also think if I'm Red Bull, I don't want to show the true pace of that car still. Otherwise, they're like, oh, we're actually... This is the gap to Red Bull.
We joked about it, didn't we? We said after the first race how they were probably going to turn their engine down. Maybe they did. Maybe it's been down the entire season, and that's why we haven't seen a technical DNF from Red Bull.
Maybe. I mean, it could be like what Mercedes were doing when they were so far ahead. They're
exactly.
Like, you don't need to run it at full power.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about DR3.
Hold on a minute. We still haven't even talked about Lando.
We did talk about Lando.
Barely.
No, because we're just going to talk about Lando the entire podcast.
No. Maybe. Shut up. No, I just wanted to come back to it really quickly. I didn't want to spend particularly long on it. But like I said, I think that if Lando had qualified further up, then he probably would have been pushing Max for a little bit of the race. And that does come with proprietary glasses on. But he was absolutely fantastic the entire weekend. the entire of Sunday.
No, he wasn't.
Sorry, the entirety of Sunday. And I think that he messed up, and then the team sort of messed up, and then also there was that issue with Alonso, and so I think it was partly him, partly rotten luck. But I think that if you're questioning, like, you know, how good Lando is, think about how good we've been saying that Oscar Piastri is all season, and how he made mincemeat of him this weekend. That's all I'll say.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And now you can talk about other people.
Yeah, let's talk about Daniel Ricciardo.
Let's back.
Let's talk about Daniel.
He's back.
He just needed one race just to get back into the groove, get used to it. The pain's gone, or whatever it was, because he said he was feeling a little bit of a pain, wasn't he, for full race distances. But yeah, he's back.
Flying.
What's that hangover meme? We are back.
Yeah.
We're back.
I did like how when he was driving, he was doing like he was drinking a cup of tea like an old English woman with his pinky finger poking out from the steering wheel. But yeah, he had an absolutely fantastic race. Out-qualified Sergio. He's definitely raised some eyebrows and raised some questions. I think that there's a longer conversation for us to have as to how on earth couldn't he have just done this at McLaren? Like, my God, it's so disappointing. It's so frustrating that it didn't work out at McLaren.
Didn't work out.
Because I mean,
sometimes that happens.
You could even argue that it did work out enough for him at Renault when he was at Renault for a couple of years. The first season wasn't particularly good, but then the second season it was the COVID season, wasn't it? He was putting out podiums in a Renault. Like, this is what I mean. It's just such a shame that it didn't work out at McLaren, but I would much rather him be out of the McLaren and doing absolutely amazingly than in the McLaren doing whatever. So hopefully he gets a seat at Red Bull next year, in all honesty. Because
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. But I mean, he's definitely raised some eyebrows and raised some questions with his.
Well, the AlphaTauri had pace.
Yeah, but did you see how they jumped up in the constructors? They jumped up from like 7th in the constructor, up from 10th, to 7th in the constructors. It's mad.
Yep. So that's a difference a few points make, and those few points, I think, if as a list of current conduct at that moment was worth $20 million.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, he seems to have found his groove, his mojo back. Outqualified Perez, technically beat Perez in the race.
Sorry, he is he's brought AlphaTauri up to 8th from 10th. I do apologise.
Still, that's still a
yeah. They're level on points with Alfa Romeo.
And you may forget what I was going to say now.
We talking about Ocon?
No, I think he was defending really well against George Russell. Was that it?
Oh, Daniel.
Ricciardo.
Yes, Ricciardo. He was. Yeah, he was defending really well. He defended pretty well against everyone other than Lewis, but it's Lewis.
Yeah.
So
also, actually, Lewis's move on Charles was epic.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
It's really
and that move that Lando did on George, that is top notch. That's so good. Overtake of the month. Easy. Easily. The vote went up today. If you haven't voted or haven't had a look on F1's Instagram, I believe they have all of the videos. I don't know if they have them on X or anything like that. But go and vote for your favourite overtake. But that, for me, is definitely overtake of the month.
Cool. Two more things I want to talk about before we talk about Sergio and Daniel and all that. We'll go K-Mag. Let's talk about K-Mag.
Yeah.
Oof, that was a nasty crash.
Yeah,
I think a nasty crash.
Massive shot of adrenaline as he jumped out of the car.
Yeah, because he was like shaking his hands.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, has he hurt himself not quite bad? He looked okay, but like
he revealed on LinkedIn, because we're connected on LinkedIn.
Are you first level connections?
I'm first level connection with Kevin Magnussen on LinkedIn. No, I think I just follow him. We're not, we don't want to rub it in your face that we're friends. But no, he put something up on LinkedIn. He probably also went up on Instagram, but LinkedIn is where I saw it because I'm boring and a businessman. But yeah, so he put something up saying that essentially he had a knock on the hand. That's why he was shaking his hand as he came out of the car. I don't know if he knocked it into the side of the cockpit or if the steering wheel spun and hit him in the hand, but he's absolutely fine. And so I think that it was a left rear suspension failure. However, if you see the video in slow-mo, you can also see that the right rear suspension fails a couple of seconds after the left rear suspension fails.
It was just so like you just see him
it was
just going over the curb.
That was it.
Boom.
Yeah, he just went the wrong way. I think that Gunther Steiner said that it might have been a heat-related issue, but they're going to investigate as to why on earth and how on earth it happened. But I want to make this clear: Kevin wasn't at fault whatsoever. It was just purely a mechanical failure. And the reason why I'm saying that is because he did get a little bit of like hate online, and I'm like, you can very clearly tell.
Way, people just hating online without knowing all the full facts.
Oh yeah, well at least none of his. I've probably not got that many fans in Mexico, but at least none of them started a fight. We'll get onto that a bit later. But Jesus Christ. But yeah, I'm glad he's okay. But I'm gutted for Nico, who had a reasonably good race, to be completely honest, and then just got sucker punched towards the end. He just got sucked out of the points, which is a bit annoying. But he got... Did you hear the team radio from Ocon?
No.
Oh my God. The team radio, right? This is hilarious. So Ocon is... So I think Hulk's in 10th, right? Ocon is in 11th. And Ocon says on the radio, "Tell the Haas boys I'm coming," or something like that.
Oh, yes, I remember.
And then he goes to overtake him and it just goes completely wrong.
He says, like, it's like, "Tell him I'm going to send it," or something.
Yeah, "Tell the Haas boys I'm going to send it," and then doesn't overtake. I was like, oh, you can't make this stuff up. And then it took him like 5 laps to overtake. I was like, at the very least, he's going to overtake him in the second DRS set. Oh, no, okay, no, he's not. Oh damn! This has got hands. That was. I'm sorry, Esteban. You're a lovely bloke, but that was embarrassing.
Esty bestie, going for it.
Don't say shit like that on the radio and then not follow through, or do, because it's hilarious. But yeah, my God.
Actually, talking about sending it, what were your thoughts on the Yuki and Oscar coming together?
That's a great question. I think Yuki just went all in, and you can very clearly tell that when he spun around after the contact, instead of trying to come down in gears and set off again, he punched the steering wheel instead. There's too much anger in that man. There is too much at points. Whereas Oscar must have been driving. This is how I literally imagine it. Must have driven along and dunk. I think Yuki hit me. And that was it. That was all he did. He just carried on driving.
Who do you think was? Do you think there was a fault there?
I think it was a racing incident, to be completely honest with you. But I think that Yuki was more at fault than anyone else.
I think Yuki was more at fault. He should have made sure he was clear of Oscar.
Exactly. If Yuki had knocked into Oscar and Oscar had spun out or crashed or whatever, 100% a time penalty would have been coming his way. However, because he span out and then ended up finishing in 12th, and essentially fell all the way to rock bottom and then like climbed up a few positions as well. He didn't get a time penalty because he didn't impact or ruin anyone's chances of points or anything like that. So yeah, I think that he punished himself.
That's true.
So I think that's why.
Cool. And then finally, summing up our thoughts on the Mexican Grand Prix, Aston Martin.
I have almost no thoughts.
I have no words as well. I just like Alonso at the back of the grid, and they had to retire both cars. But what is going on?
What is this McLaren from 2014? What's going on?
Or is it McLaren from 2023? They've literally swapped places.
Yeah, they have.
This was Fernando Alonso getting past Ferraris and Mercedes in Bahrain, and now they're not even getting into Q3.
It's mad, isn't it? Let's be honest. It just is a bit mad.
And they're bringing upgrades, and they're just going backwards.
Yeah, like we joked about it last weekend. Every single upgrade seems to be a downgrade. Like I don't get what on earth is going on. We can talk a little bit as well about the rumors if you want to, which have come out on X, which I would like to chat about.
I mean, do you want
to chat about it after, or do you want to do it now?
No, we'll chat about it after because it kind of leads in from Aston into it. But
yeah, this weekend was one to forget, right? That must have been painful for you watching him.
I mean, I hardly ever saw him on the track.
True, yeah.
So it was okay. But yeah, it's just confusing. Like, okay, fair enough. You might not be catching Ferrari and Mercedes, but it's not like you're the quickest car behind them.
No.
Alphas are ahead of you. The AlphaTauris are ahead of you. The Williams are ahead of you. Even the Haas at times is ahead of them. It's really, really confusing considering all the money they've invested and there's a new factory. I don't know. Do you know what? We'll lead into it now. It does. I want to say worry. I don't really care too much, but it does make it look like the team is going up for sale.
So
it does look like, you know what, Lawrence could be just like, I'm done.
So I'll address, and I don't know how much context you have on this as well. But so there's a rumor going around on X at the moment that Lawrence Stroll has sold off stocks or shares of the Aston Martin F1 team. And it's simply not true. There are rumors going around that he sold off 25 million's worth of stock or whatever it is. But when you look into it, it is actually Aston Martin's road cars that have sold off some stock, which happens every now and again. They dilute stock. They create stock out of nowhere. Maybe the majority shareholder dilutes some of their shares, whatever it is. But it was actually only 2.5 million. It wasn't 25 million. So it's actually kind of expected for a large company like that to do something like this. So I can understand where the rumors come from, but it's just completely not true. And then there were obviously a couple of rumors about apparently Lance retiring. I don't think he's going to retire. I've got no idea. I don't think so. It'd just be very odd. I could see him maybe doing it for mental health reasons because some of the fans have been horrible.
And maybe his heart's not in it anymore. But the rumor I've heard is, and I think you know this as well, is that the team has been sold.
Yeah.
And Fernando is not going to be there next year.
That's the big rumor.
That led into rumors like, is he going to Red Bull? Is there a swap between Sergio and Fernando? Which has all been like squashed, just saying nothing true. Don't know what's going on with this.
I'm going to pull it up on my phone.
So basically, that Albert. So what's happened was two things have happened. Albert Farega, is he like one of the F1 TV technical guys?
I don't know.
He's tweeted something like, "Oh my god, I've heard something, and if it's true, it's very sad." And then people have made of that what they will, and then other people have come out and said, "Oh, this must be the Fernando to Red Bull rumor, or Sergio leaving Red Bull." And then more people have come out and said none of that's true, but he's just basically just put a tweet out. It's just caused fire.
Yeah, and then there is also another tweet.
Either way, something is happening in the Formula One paddock. It might be to do with another team. It might be to do. It could be like Andretti have not been allowed to come into Formula One.
Yeah,
that could be the rumor. Yeah, but something is happening, and it's just causing a load of shit.
Yeah, I've got no idea, but I'd imagine it will probably come out by the time we get to Brazil. You know what the paddock is like. Something will come out. Something will let slip. However, this is one of the memes that you sent me, and this was an X screenshot about Fernando Alonso to Red Bull, Checo Perez to Aston Martin. Alonso is very unhappy with the direction his team has taken, and the 2024 car looked very bad. Right. I would like to point out that the person who posted this, Matthew J. Thompson, is a professional Fernando Alonso dick rider. And I am putting that lightly. He is a massive fan of Alonso, and I don't actually know if he's a real journalist, And yes, I understand how ironic that is coming from me with my little podcast, but please don't take that as fact, because there's no solidity to this. I will hold my hands up if in a week, a month, whatever, that it comes out that this is absolutely correct. But this man is well known for kissing Fernando Alonso's feet, like praising the ground wherever he walks. So please do not take this seriously. It's not something which, it's not something which you should take that seriously. There were obviously a couple of other rumors being thrown around as well, but I mean, there's always some sort of rumor within.
No, that's it. It just like the rumors are like Stroll's sold the team, Fernando's going to Red Bull, Checo's leaving, Daniel Ricciardo's going to Red Bull. Yeah, but whatever it is, hopefully it comes out in the next week, and then we can talk about
I'd imagine
rumors after that.
Yeah.
There'll always be rumors and stuff, but yeah, I mean, should we talk about Checo's future?
Sure, why not?
Do you think he's going to be at Red Bull next year?
I think if they were to put him in the car, they'd be silly. At this point,
yeah,
it seems like a really stupid thing to do.
It seems to be that the move would be to buy him out of his contract, promote Daniel, and bring Liam in.
Yeah, I think that it depends on obviously the sponsorship relations and stuff like that. But I mean, like there might be some sort of specific sponsorship deal that is only going ahead because Sergio is the driver there and blah, 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 blah. So I would imagine there's some sort of legal repercussions or sponsorship repercussions from just paying him out of his contract. It's not like, for example, where Daniel Ricciardo didn't bring many sponsorships, but Checo does. So there might be something to do with that. But I personally, like I said, he's not switched on anymore. He's not there. He is almost a bit like Ricciardo was a couple of years ago, and in all honesty, maybe a year or two's break would do him good. I don't know. Checo is a fantastic driver on his day. However, he hasn't had a day since the beginning of the season, since Baku.
So I'm having a look at some of these sponsors, which I'm going to be assumed are attributed to Checo.
Yep.
One is an insurance broker in Mexico.
Yep.
They're called Interproteccion, and they're a broker in Mexico, so I'm assuming that they came with Sergio.
Yeah.
Another one is America Mobile. I'm not sure. Also, these sponsors came into 2021, so when Sergio joined. So it doesn't say what. Oh, they're a telecom service in Latin America. So yeah, I'm assuming he's a part of that. Is Walmart outside of America?
I'm not entirely sure.
Because if they are, probably Sergio is probably a big part of that. There's also Patron Tequila. When do they come in? Doesn't say, but probably Sergio is a part of that as well. And then there's Sue. No, it's actually called SUI. They're blockchain. Okay. So, yeah. He brings sponsors with him. Didn't they have Claro at one point as well?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I think that also a lot of it might not be that he brings them, but it might be that he attracts some sponsorships from Latin America and from America itself that mean that he's very well paid.
Yeah,
or very attractive.
If you've got a Latin American driver, then if you're a Latin American company, it makes sense to be a part of that team.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. So I think that he probably brings in quite a bit more than you might think. But
I don't think Red Bull are. Well, if Daniel joins, there can be some companies from Australia that would want to.
I think
then sponsor
Foster's
Red
is,
Bull.
is it or Heineken or something like that? One of those is like a big sponsor of Daniel, but I can't remember. But anyway, like I said, regardless of sponsorships, regardless of all that fun stuff, I thought there was somebody in your apartment then with the water bottle going past. With like I said, they would be silly to put him in the car. I think that you could pull in almost any driver from the current grid, put them in that car, and they would probably do a better job than Perez. Perez is closer to having 0 points than he is to Max Verstappen's current point tally. I think that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, that's also it's a bit strange that people are talking about like Fernando's not happy with the 2024 car and that's why he wants to go to Red Bull when Honda are coming in. And considering how well the Honda engine is doing for Red Bull, it would be like, well, let's see what they do with this Aston Martin.
I've got honestly no idea. I don't see. I think that with Aston Martin such a strong start, unless something ridiculous has happened, I'd imagine that Fernando probably does still have confidence there.
The only thing I can think was whatever they had on their car was deemed illegal, whether it's technical directive or whether it was something earlier.
Maybe.
And that's lost them a ton of performance. And it's just like, well, we know what it is. We know. But, so I was, what was I listening to? Sorry, it was something with Adrian Newey where he talks about designing the car. And he goes, for like the outer part of the car, if you get that wrong, it's kind of okay because you can change and upgrade that throughout the season. But if you get the underlying fundamental parts, if that doesn't work, your car's gone for a whole season.
Yeah.
And that probably maybe what's happened with Aston Martin is one of their fundamental areas where they gain downforce has changed.
It can be something as simple as weight distribution.
So, I don't know, but I don't know enough about aerodynamics.
No, I'm just saying, like, it can be something as simple as that is a knock-on effect to other stuff. It can be something as simple as the I don't know, like the homologation of the chassis. It can be so many different bits and pieces. So it's such fine margins that even literally moving I don't know, I'm going to pull something random out of here, but like a fuse box or something like that, even moving it from, up above the driver's body weight to the same level as it, that can potentially change a hell of a lot of things. It's so finicky and technical. Yeah,
but it's just like, why them? Like, why have they gone?
I don't know.
Like,
no
literally,
idea.
they are the only team that's gone backwards. Haas have made a little bit of jump. AlphaTauri have made a jump. Williams have made a jump. McLaren have made a jump. Mercedes have. Ferrari. It's only them that's gone back and gone back massively. It's really strange.
It is very strange.
But yeah, go back to what we're talking about. I agree. I don't think Sergio is going to be there next year purely because they probably think it's going to be a bigger fight for the constructors and they want to maximize the points. And Sergio just does seem to be a little bit of a liability, which is a shame because he is a good driver underneath all of that. I think people do forget that.
Well, his replacement is based on the rumours that are circling at the moment. Again, please take some of them with a pinch of salt, especially if they come from that bloke. In all honesty, if you can get Fernando Alonso in that Red Bull, you'd be stupid not to.
I mean, if you want to start talking rumours, Flavio was talking to Christian a few races back.
True, a few races back. Yep. There's been a couple of instances of them meeting, apparently. So,
yeah,
who knows?
And obviously, if things like this get announced, probably a lot of stuff has to be done in the background, like you said, in terms of sponsors and paperwork, and
exactly.
Also, if they're like publicly traded companies, I'm pretty sure you've got to be very careful on how you release this information, because it can affect stock prices and things like that. So, like to the point, like if Lewis Hamilton leaves Mercedes, I'm pretty sure their stock price will be affected.
Well, I think their stock price actually got affected after Abu Dhabi 21 because they didn't appeal the decision.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it did. I think it dipped a little bit because they didn't properly appeal for it.
Because there's things like that come up where like, oh, these rumors come around, and you're manipulating their stock price and things like that. So I guess that obviously I'm not saying any driver has that much power, but that could be what could be going on with Fernando, because it could be like, oh, well, Aston Martin's a publicly traded company and they're about to lose their top driver.
Yeah.
So
no offense, Lance.
I'm pretty sure, like you said, and a lot of these things come out, it's like deny until we have the right information to be released at the right time.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I mean, what do you think? Like, in terms of actually getting somebody else in that second seat, do you think it's literally just a very obvious shoe-in for Daniel, or do you think they will shop around?
No, it's a shoe-in. Oh, the Red Bull seat?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's a shoe-in for Daniel.
100%.
He knows the team. He's a reserve driver. He's doing simulator work for them.
Yeah.
I think he gets along with Max as well.
Like I said to you as well, when Daniel left the team, obviously he was their sim driver. Apparently they struggled with sim data as soon as he left the team.
Wow.
I did mention that on one of the podcasts when he disappeared to AlphaTauri just after the summer break. No, it was just before. No, just after. Just after? It was for Monza?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't know. Anyway, but it was as he came back, I think it was the weekend after, like I did say, like, oh, they've struggled with sim data since he's left. Because obviously he was doing so much stuff as a reserve driver. So, yeah.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, overall thoughts on the race?
I think it was probably top 5 of the season.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better races of the season. There's lots of battles, start to finish. Max just went and did his thing. Drama with Checo. Great drive by Lando. Great drive by Lewis. And yeah, the midfield battle was good as well, between like the Alphas, the Williams, the Astons, and the Haas. So yeah, I really enjoyed the race. Actually, before we wrap up, should we talk about that video that went viral of that guy attacking the Ferrari fan?
Yeah, would you like to explain what on earth happened?
Well, I don't know the full background of it, but there is a video of this man attacking 2 Ferrari fans, of which apparently it started because lots of the... I wouldn't say lots, let's just focus on that one guy. Was obviously Checo hit Charles hit Checo. Yeah. Who knows what started it? Who knows what was said or what wasn't said or anything like that? But this guy just goes and starts wailing on these 2 Ferrari fans, punching them. Luckily, one of the other fans in the stadium area just literally grabs him from behind in a little bit of a chokehold and holds him away. But it's pretty disgusting behavior. You don't attack anyone. And if for whatever reason, certainly not because your favorite driver got into an incident and is out of the race. Like, just there's no reason for it to escalate to being physically violent to someone. No reason at all.
Yeah, it was completely unacceptable. It just was. And something else which is completely unacceptable were the boos for Charles at the end of the race.
How can you boo Charles Leclerc? How? How can you boo?
The fact that he had to address it during the speech that he was making says enough.
Yeah,
a driver should never ever be put in that position, ever. And yeah, shame on you if you were booing him.
Also, it's just part of being like a mature person to be like, you know what? As much as I love Charles and Fernando and Lewis and all that, if they do something wrong, like they do something wrong, right? You know, you're gonna say, like, if Charles was at fault for that incident, I'll be like, yeah, Charles was at fault for that incident. You know, there's nothing you can do about it, right? As much as I love Charles and I'm a fan of him, you know, you've got to say, you know what, he shouldn't have put his car there. So as a Sergio fan, yeah, I get it. Your favorite driver's out, the home race heroes are out, but he wasn't maybe at fault as a racing incident, but you got to be like, it's a racing incident. And there's nothing that 2 Ferrari fans could have done about it. There's nothing. They didn't, like, you know, I don't know what they would.
They weren't there like in a bloody like clip out of Mario
like
Kart, chucking bananas on the track and trying to get people to spin
they were on
out.
the radio to Sergio, being like, "Yeah, make the move, do it, you can do it, you can do it."
It was not an episode of Impractical Jokers being like, Charles, a now break, no later, now break. No, it was just bad.
And look, there's a difference between if Max crashed out and hopefully it was just like let's just say if Max's car failed, I would totally expect the Mexican fans to be happy and cheer about it.
Sure,
like and that's it. Okay, that's going to happen, kind of thing. But if I was a Max fan, I wouldn't be like, oh, let me go after some people who've got Honda hats on because the engine failed and just start punching them. It's just.
Somebody said something on Twitter or X, and they said this is the hooliganization of Formula 1.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, this is the football hooliganization.
Yeah, football hooliganization. And I think that it's important that we remember, and this is obviously based off the back of that tweet as well, we remember that we gave shit to the certain individuals when, Max Verstappen fans were, or people who happened to be Max Verstappen fans during the Austrian Grand Prix where they were, making women feel unsafe and stuff like that. We were also critical of other like fans, or I say we, but Formula One fans were critical of other fans when, they were being arses, essentially. Yeah. And I think that it's important that we do the exact same thing and say that if you were there fighting or booing, you were being an arse. There's just no excuse for it whatsoever. It's not exactly like I said, it's not like Max took him out of the race and so you boo Max. Like, he didn't do it on purpose type thing. So, like, there's no why. Like, why? Why?
I think I said this before on a few, maybe 2 or 3 podcasts about it. It's 2 factors. It's one is Drive to Survive. Drive to Survive has brought in, and I'm not saying it's the Drive to Survive fans. Drive to Survive has, and it leads into my second point, has opened these drivers up a lot more, and you feel more connected with them. Yeah. Right? You're seeing a different side to them. You say, oh, Lando does this and Charles does this. It makes it more relatable. And then social media basically means like, if you wanted to, you can send a message to Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, whatever, right there and then, which maybe 10, 15 years ago, that level of access wasn't there. So they or they believe that they feel a lot more like friends of these drivers, if that makes sense, kind of thing, because they feel a lot more connected. And then the highs are high, but the lows are low.
Super low,
then you also get these stupid things where like said driver can't do anything wrong because I'm their fan. And it isn't just a sports thing. You see that with lots of celebrity worship in music and film and things like that. And it's got to that point, which is just a bit ridiculous, So, hopefully as an isolated incident and we don't hear any more booing or have any more fights.
Hopefully not, because we're back in Brazil next weekend. Please no fighting, please no booing. Let's just have a good time.
Let's just enjoy 20 drivers
driving
fast cars around the track. But,
exactly. Should be good. Really looking forward to it.
We'll talk about it on our next podcast where we preview Brazil.
Yes, that will probably come out. Should we try and get it up by Thursday? Because obviously the sprint race is on Friday. The quali, is on Friday. So we need to.
We'll get the release of Thursday.
Yeah, we need to spring speed things up. So it's late here. It's like 11 o'clock almost in my time zone. I do apologise.
And we've been talking
10:30. Sorry. Yeah, we've been recording now for 50 minutes. Which is quite a while, to be honest with you. I mean, I've had fun. I've enjoyed chatting with you.
That's what we do it. I just get to talk to you about Formula One.
Yeah,
and if people listen, that's great. If they don't,
if not,
that's fine.
Yeah, just look at our memes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would also like to remind everyone, because it's good to get the reminder out early. This weekend is the last sprint weekend of the year, so timings will be different. Also, we're in Brazil, so timings will be different. So please just double check when the timings are for quali, sprint, Saturday, and also the race itself. Please double check everything. And while I have your attention, and while you're frantically opening up the Formula One app to work out what time, stop go to Spotify, give us a rating because it helps and we like it. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it gives us a little hit of dopamine.
Love me a rating. I think we've got 8 now. Ooh, look at us in the big
let's
leagues.
Let's try and get to double figures.
I wonder, I'm going to open up Spotify right now and I'm going to go to our lovely podcast, which is obviously available on Spotify and also Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and your preferred podcast platform. But I'm going to it now to see how many ratings we do have. It's gone up! We have 9 ratings now. Wow. Yeah, nice. So now we have 9 ratings. So if you want to be our 10th rater, brilliant. Go for it.
Could I just point out 3 things?
Oh, God.
Firstly, if you go on the F1 website, you can download the calendar and it gives you alerts. Like I've got mine set to half an hour before.
Oh, yeah, I've got that as well. Yeah.
Or race starts. Secondly, you've been posting a couple of shorts online. There's one of them where I'm searching for information and my eyes are just elsewhere and you're talking and it just looks like I'm totally spaced out, not listening.
I know exactly which clip we're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, but have you ever seen the meme of the dog where, like, I don't know if it's, I don't know what TV show it's from, but they bring like a cupcake in front of it and his eyes are really wide. And they usually put some background, like war thing or something where he's like remembering memories.
Yeah. There's the Vietnam flashback meme.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
Which looks an awful lot like when you were talking about how you made your predictions really well. And I'm just there like, I fucked my predictions up. And in the background, faded, is Sergio Perez.
Just crashing.
And it looks like I'm having that really bad flashback to when I made an awful prediction.
That reel actually did pretty well. I'm not going to lie.
Quite good. It's quite funny.
It's done really well. All I did was just overlaid the clip to the top of it.
Do you know what you need to overlay? Even because we're talking wouldn't work, but maybe if you muted it, like after you said your predictions, was like, and you got to tell everybody you're fine, but deep down you know you're not fine inside. That Katy Perry world.
Yeah, exactly. And I like. It annoyed me that the Lando Norris sensational one didn't do as well as it was supposed to because the likes well outweigh the number of views it should have gotten.
Do you know what really popped off? The George Russell and Logan Sargent one.
Oh,
rookie season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that went absolutely insane.
And we got some love for Vettel. I put the little Vettel Prime meme up because it was about a few years. It wasn't the day, but a few years to the day where he won his 4th championship.
Yeah,
at India. So that got a lot of love. People still miss Seb.
I miss Seb every single day. Every single day I wake up and I look at my...
Why don't you just connect with him on LinkedIn?
Sebastian Vettel's bodywork encased in resin that I have from his AMR 21 and weep into my pillow.
And with that, thank you for listening. This has been Jacob and Ash at the 107 podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate, all that good stuff if you want. And we will see you, or you'll hear from us in a few days where we preview Brazil.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
Just like sprint races. You don't really want them, but they'll be back anyway.
You'll learn to love them.
Exactly, yeah. You will learn. Cheers, everyone.